Good evening. It is February 26, 6:05 p.m. Here for a committee meeting of General Services and Property.
General Services.
General Service. It says General Services and Property. It should be General Services.
General Services.
General Services Committee.
Yeah.
General Services Committee.
Yeah. It's another name.
And
General Services and Administration Committee.
Right.
It's called to order.
So let's make that correction.
Yeah, let's make that correction.
Yeah.
Councilor Baker?
Present.
Councilor Martin?
For what's the meeting? What's the name of the meeting again?
General Services and Administration.
Okay.
General
Present.
Services.
And Councilor King?
Present.
Okay.
Yeah, just do
We got a lot of stuff that I'd like to discuss tonight. A bunch of stuff on the agenda. I want to go ahead and kind of suspend the Robert's rules so we can have more of a conversation and amongst all the councilors here, so that we can talk, because there's no real legislation before us. It's just presentations and conversations, discussions about things that are coming down through the city.
Point of order, could you acknowledge the councilman just
I would like to acknowledge Councilman Tom Wheeler, Council Vice President, and Council President Barbara Thomas are present. So,
Mr. Chairman, I see you got on here executive session. Okay, what's that about?
executive session was on there from a previous meeting.
Okay.
We just left it on there. So
there's no executive session?
Yeah, it won't be needed, and there's no legislation, so that won't actually be needed. I would,
Let me ask you,
go ahead.
Mr. Chair. So let me understand this quite clear so that the audience can understand it also. You are giving an update and an initiative of something that might be taking place in the future. You're giving an update from before.
Yes.
You're giving, you're talking about something that you are entering in for the future.
Yes.
Okay, so that's what you're doing now. So that everybody understands.
Yes. There's a number of issues that we want to talk about tonight.
Okay.
So, and I like to move out of order. I talked about the last couple of days in regards to the Salvation Army. So I'd like to bring that up first, and I'd like to give you a brief on that so that everyone on council understands where we're at. The Salvation Army is trying to get that land on Dolan, and some of the land is city and some of it belongs to the government, right? I was out of town at the last council meeting, and it was brought to my attention Monday, I believe it was, that the Salvation Army was basically pulling that project. And they were pulling it because of fear that they could not get the variances that they needed to operate the facility. So, given some of the people I know at the Salvation Army, I took it upon myself to try to reach out to the Salvation Army, kind of assure them that as a council we were going to get them the variances or anything that they needed to move this project forward. And to kind of give you a brief as to where it's at, they need the tax credits to do it. They have a limited amount of time to get the tax credits. They can't wait for us to pass it on 2 readings and then the 30 days before it becomes.
Yeah, I don't know.
So, I'm out of order?
Yeah.
Okay.
And point of order. I wanted to say point of order. Go ahead and say what you want to say. but we're dealing with that in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
agenda review.
Yeah, I was just gonna I know your intentions are
Okay, good.
to handle it now, but I think that, you know, it's best to deal with it under agenda review, and all your remarks are duly noted.
So you don't have it on?
He asked to suspend his rule, but as far as his order, but we did not amend your agenda, so
Yeah.
that's why we have to stop talking about it at this point.
It can be a discussion under agenda review.
Well,
So I as a sponsor of that legislation, I will entertain you first comment again.
okay, so I'm not an expert on Robert's rules, but it was my understanding I could suspend them and we wouldn't have to go through all
You
the formal
suspended,
stuff.
yeah, you can suspend the order, like just in case you wanted to move the remarks of the public to the top, or miscellaneous to the top, or
Yeah.
you're suspending the order as printed on here.
Yeah, I wanted to suspend the order and suspend the formality, so we don't sit here, you know, begging to speak or jumping on each other or speaking out of turn. Just wanted to have a conversation.
Technically, sir, you wouldn't suspend it. You would amend your agenda. But at this point, I'm asking you and the council president and her attendance to your meeting, guest counselor, would love to talk about this under the agenda review.
Okay, the agenda review that will be the last meeting that we're having. I would, in that case, move that we have remarks of the public now. I have invited a number of people from the public, and there are a number of people from the public here who would like to speak on behalf of certain issues, including the Salvation Army. So I would like to move my agenda to have remarks of the public now.
That's your agenda, and I'm being, and this
Please.
is not my meeting,
Okay.
but I'm here to support your efforts in your meeting. And this is, it's becoming difficult when it.
I'm trying not to make it difficult.
Oh, and what I'm saying is, you're making it difficult because there's a time and a place where you can discuss it. And you don't have, you wanna move amend your
The issue becomes a time constraint, and certain people, they don't have all night to sit with us, so I wanted to kind of get them in.
All right, whatever it is, I can sit here.
Okay, so please,
Wait, all right.
remarks of the public.
Hello, Council. My name is Trevelle Harp, 12611 Studio Overlook. East Cleveland resident and director of N.O.A.H. But as East Cleveland resident who was looking for assets to growing assets in our community and everything, I urge City Council to actually make that legislation emergency and pass it. We don't want to cause any barriers in the way for the Salvation Army to invest resources in our community that actually serve this community. And I think that the city should do anything and everything that it possibly can to make sure that nothing happens that they will want to pull out of investing in the community of East Cleveland. And so I urge that you guys pass it as an emergency to overcome the 30 days that it has to take for it to become law, so they can expedite their plans and move the money in place so that they actually can invest in our community. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Harvey.
Anyone else who would like to remark, please?
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'm Reverend Sean Braxton, the pastor of N.O.A.H Cathedral, and also the president of East Cleveland Concerned Pastors. When I heard today that there was a possibility that the Salvation Army would be pulling out, I changed my schedule and I asked the two pastors that are here with us to alter their schedule to be here to express the importance of the Salvation Army moving to East Cleveland. We have been at the table at the beginning of the process when the Salvation Army thought about coming to East Cleveland. I was invited down to meet with Major Lurleen Johnson and their board because it was a venture for the Salvation Army for the very first time, moving outside of the city of Cleveland, for the greater Cleveland Salvation Army, moving outside of the city of out of Cleveland and moving into a suburban area within the greater Cleveland area. And the investment that is being made, I think that it is of utmost importance that we do everything that is possible to remove whatever impediments out of the way for the investment to be made, and especially considering the area that they're attempting to move into, because of the fact that there is such limited resources, especially from a recreational standpoint, and then the senior services that the Salvation Army can offer. When they came out to meet with us last year, she brought some of the other individuals that talked about the resources, and we were excited because of the fact that they desired to not only bring the services, but to also partner with the existing churches. They were not coming in to replace the ministries that are in place, but to partner with us and fill in the gaps. We actually looked at what we offered and provided all of the outreach and the ministries that we offered, and then they did an analysis of where the gaps were, and we talked about how we could fill in the gaps to more of casting out a net around the community to offer the social services and the ministry-related services to meet the needs of the community. So as has already been expressed, whatever we need to do to move this forward, I ask that the council would consider it so that any obstacle could be moved out of the way, so that the ground can be acquired, and then that they can begin the building process. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm listening to what others have said. There is a process, and it's not that easy, number one. It does not matter what the zoning board has recommended. The final analysis rests with this council. They must have a hearing. It must be rezoned for commercial. Right now it's residential. That's U1, U2, and U3 is residential. And if that's what this legislation is still indicating, they are putting a recreation center up and etc. That comes under U4. So therefore, and I'm not trying to block them, but I want it done right, where it won't come back to bite them in the posterior or anyone else. That is what the process is. You just can't pick up property and say you're going to zone it. That's why you have a council. Council speaks through legislation. I said this to the council before, and I would implore you to read Section 85 of the Charter. It's specifically explained to what takes place here. And also, the Salvation Army been armed with that section. The council must hold a hearing on rezoning, for a public hearing about the rezoning. I see you holding that up. I haven't seen that. But anyway, there has not been a hearing. You just cannot sit up and pass something without doing your due diligence. There must be legislation. There must, first of all, must be a hearing to change it from a U1 and a U2, because that was a residential area. There was apartment buildings in there. Some of them was under the auspices of the city when they took it, I guess, through eminent domains from Mr. William that owned that property at the time. So all of it does not, because part of it, I think, Luther, or not, what is the housing? People has part of it, CMHA has part of that property. So I think the upper part is CMHA, or either the lower part, I kind of get it mixed up now, but that's who owns part of that property. The city does not own all of that property. And I'm asking this council, as the Salvation Army has been here, and they have stood before this council and said the same identical thing. They want to do it right. and where they can have it, if they're gonna get it, do it right. And you have to have a hearing. And first of all, on the on the zoning board.
N.O.A.H, please, please, we got
Let
it.
me just-
No, let me cut you off. Let me cut you off,
Okay.
because we've heard it before. In my hand, we have the legal opinion from the city's lawyer regarding this. Now, I want the residents here to trust me and trust us. No one up here wants to go to jail. No one up here wants to do this wrong. We are gonna go by the guidance of the administration and of the city lawyer on this. The city lawyer says that the things are fine, everything is in order to move this forward, right? We can't go by N.O.A.H, with all due respect. We can't go by yours. If we go to court, we can't take N.O.A.H in there and say we were going by N.O.A.H, because they're gonna say, well, who is N.O.A.H? Why don't you listen to the city lawyer? So N.O.A.H, if you would please sit down. We are going to move this thing forward in the best interest of the city. We simply are going to follow the law.
The law says
and
you
what
must
the
have a
lawyer.
hearing.
No, we're going to follow the lawyer, right? Okay, so let's. That's fine. That's fine. If we get in trouble for our city lawyer, we'll let the city lawyer handle that, right? Martin, please.
Yeah, I need to say something. If there's perception, from day one we supported the Salvation Army. From day one. We were dragging, but we supported it. At our meeting last week that they were here, we said we supported the project. We did what we needed to do. Some questions came up, we directed those questions to the law director. Okay. We get an answer just right now. We don't have time to read the peruse. We asked for a legal opinion on that. No one, and I can speak for every council person up here, is opposed to Salvation Army doing what they need to do. But it's about doing it right. Government is about process and procedure. That's why we're up here. So we're not holding up anything. I met those people. We had a very positive conversation with them when they were here. And when these questions came up, we couldn't answer all those questions. So we referred them for what we weren't sure about to the law director. Now she's giving an opinion. But no one is holding any kind of development, economic development or progress for the city of East Cleveland. You need to understand that. No one. Anyone that's coming in here, any business entity that wants to do economic development and wants to do something to help our people, we support that. So I'm surprised that I'm seeing the ministers and come here, and it's kind of surprising to me, because if you were here last week, you would have heard the conversation and you would have a perspective of that we're not holding up anything. Now that we got an answer, we're going to deal with it. I reached out to those people to write letters to help us in other areas. Okay? We have financial challenges that ain't going to go away. Reverend Braxton, those are our major issues, but we're not holding this up at all. Everybody on this council supports the project. Anybody want to come in East Cleveland with the challenges we're facing right now to do anything. So if that's the perception, that's not really what we're doing. We're moving with this. Okay, we're moving with this, and we move with any kind of economic development that's going to help this city if this city is going to survive. Yesterday, we had to, and I sit down, you need to hear this too. We met with the state, we had the state fiscal commission meeting, and they told what our financial situation is. And I won't go into all that, I can talk to you guys, but we got some challenges, some very severe challenges. They talked about mismanagement, I can go on and on and on, but we got to move and move towards solutions. But no one is holding up this project, and I need to say that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Please, allow me to read the conclusion from the law director. It says, "It is thus my legal opinion that all procedures and requirements leading up to the submission by the BZA of its recommendation to the East Cleveland City Council were followed." So she's basically putting it in writing. We are all in support, as my colleague has stated, but in essence, we were holding it up. We could have simply took her word for it. We could have simply took the fact that they worked on the legislation and sent it down here, that they wouldn't have sent it down here unless they'd done their due diligence to make sure it was correct. This, waiting for it in writing, did essentially hold it up. So we apologize to the residents, and we're gonna try to get this thing moved forward, passed as an emergency next Tuesday.
Mr. Chair,
That's an emergency.
I think I wanna make a clarification.
We're in miscellaneous, Pastor. We're in miscellaneous now, Pastor.
Okay,
Well, can I just finish?
if you can, okay, because I just had to make one statement, if it would be.
I'm gonna make my comment.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'm gonna make my comment. I think,
Let me hear what she has.
I think we're making more out of this than you have to.
Mm-hmm.
When there came a couple of questions, I always refer to the law director. That's the first line of defense for any city or any person working in the city. The first line of defense is to see what your law director has to say. If you go to court, the first thing they're going to ask you is, have you met with your law director, and what did your law director have to say? I don't think we held it up waiting on an opinion, because what we said was, we're going to be coming back, and once you have once we start discussing it, we will have an opinion in writing. I always like to deal with writing. So that's where we're coming from. I talked to the major yesterday. She called me, and I said, Major, I hear that every time I turn around, you're gonna pull the project. I said, we want this project. I said, but we don't want any misconception of what is taking place. She said to me, I know you do, President. What I'm saying to you is that we wanted to get some clarification. So we asked our lawyer, because he was concerned that about emergency. So she said the lawyer would talk to your lawyer here at the city and come to some conclusion. I said my law director will be back today, Thursday, which is today, and she will converse with your lawyer. I got the information today. My counselors, in all their wisdom, are very concerned about this project. I don't think, and it's good to hear from the ministers, it's good to always hear from N.O.A.H, but I think we're making such a big deal because what is happening, we're going on, everything has been taken care of. He just has his administration, but we also have the agenda review, we also have a special meeting, and there was 2 things on it that were more important. This came in third. Getting a budget, getting the appropriations in place, and dealing with it is what is necessary. And I am kind of concerned that from I don't know where, that we don't want this project, and that we are holding up the project. I don't know where that comes from, and I apologize if that's the perception out here. And like my colleague, who is over contracts and properties, my other colleagues, there is a procedure. And once the law director has said it's fine, and the other law person has said it's fine, I'm fine with it, because we are a home rule city and the law has taken its course. Now, anyone in our residence can do otherwise if they wish, but we're moving on. And my colleague, who is chair down there, is moving this meeting on so we can get on to the rest of it.
Okay. Let's hear from the Reverend.
Well,
He did.
well, just short, I'm sorry if I interfered or,
No, you didn't.
or interrupted.
You did.
But I had all of you at the Starlight Baptist Church. Well, first of all, my name is Pastor Anthony L. Small, Sr. I'm the senior pastor of the Starlight Missionary Baptist Church, 14516 Euclid Avenue. I was just disheartened to hear of anything because I thought this was done. It was a year that I had you guys sitting at the table breaking bread with us so that we could discard any negativity that was about the program. From what I hear now, you said that you're going for it. We're pleased with it. But, I want you to understand, anytime you need us, we're here. Yes, this is one of our teaching sessions. I have a session going on right now. I'm going back to Starlight. But I live in East Cleveland, 1136 Carter. East Cleveland is my heart. And anytime I hear something negative, the best thing is to come to the source.
Yes, sir.
I don't want to hear it secondhand or third hand. We need to stop getting on TV and doing all those things. Let's take care of our business. We got in touch with the state. We spoke with Yost. We also told you guys what he needed, what he wanted, and the trust issue that they needed to have. I know there's a lot of negative things that are going on about it, but I know what's truly happening. Only thing you got to do is make liars out of them. Go forth with the project. Do what you need to do. Only thing we said is be prayerful. We're here only, not politically, but spiritually for you guys. Anyone you could come to any one of our churches for prayer. You got Lakeside here. You got New Cathedral here. You got Starlight right down the street. If you ever need us, call us. But my members come to your meeting. They told me about it. They said, Pastor, you need to be there. So they pay my salary. I need to be here. So now when I go back to them, I can tell them, this is what I heard. They're going through with the project. There is no bickering. There is no misunderstanding. This is what's happening. I see it on the paper. I see it on your agenda. So when I go back and meet with them Saturday after I got a big funeral coming up, I'm going to tell them I was there. And then if they talk to you, tell them their pastor was here. Amen. We're not here to bring any kind of negative part to you. I'm here to support you. But first thing, you need to pray first, that God will guide you in the right direction. And it looks like he's doing that. Now my neighbor is here. I talk to her every time I pass her. But we're with you guys. We're not against you. We want to make sure that you structurally sound. Amen? Amen. All right, God bless you. I have to leave now, but Mr. Chairman, we're here.
Thank you,
sir. Point of order, Mr. Chairman. In closing, we do have to go back up, unless you want to skip all the rest of the agenda.
I will.
But I wanted to reassure the public, as the Contracts and Properties Chairman, that all procedures were followed. And I will always follow every last single procedure, no matter whether it's public influence or political influence that is brought before me. I have to follow what's in black and white, no matter what. That's what I was set here to do. That's what I'm going to continue to do as an official of the city of East Cleveland. We will continue the peace resolution 07-15 in its entirety under agenda review.
Thank you.
Now I'll try to go through the rest of this with a little bit of expediency so that we can get through this and move on to the next one. If you council will bear with me for a second. Okay, new business. Good to announce the tobacco. We are looking at restricting the sale of flavored tobacco in the city of East Cleveland. Many of you may be familiar, maybe not familiar with cities as New York, and I want to say it's Washington and Chicago, have passed restriction so that flavored tobacco products cannot be sold. As most of you are no doubt aware, we got people in Kirk or Heritage smoking these little Black and Milds because of the orange flavor and all that. So we got a group that's working on this legislation, and we're hoping to have that not just in front of this council, but in front of the neighboring councils, so that as a region it gets passed and that they can't just go into the next city and get these products. So this is a health and safety general service thing that we're looking at. The next one is the residential rental unit occupancy permit.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
is that for the entirety, or is that for minors? Because you know, adults, grown folks, smoke that one too.
So what legislation, what we're looking at is we're looking at restricting the sale
Period.
of flavored tobacco products, period. So that maybe in the city of this size, you'll find one place that sells it. Maybe a tobacco shop where you won't even see a minor walk into it. As many of you are aware, maybe a month ago, we did the minors going into stores and purchasing alcohol and purchasing tobacco products underage. No. If a tobacco shop, right, through our legislation that we're looking at, there shouldn't even be any minors in this store. So that's what we're looking at doing with that.
I have something to say. In relation to this whole tobacco situation, Trevelle Harp, they did something in terms of where they go in these stores and they buy 1 or 2 cigarettes or whatever, or what they call blunts. Barbara introduced some legislation. What the barrier we have, and his intent is good, and I support it, is enforcement. We don't have the means to enforce. I go to the gas station and get gas all the time, and I get the gas station right across the street from Shaw. I go there, I go down to Shell down in Superior and Euclid, and I see the exchange. It's difficult to enforce. The stores know that they're not supposed to sell these cigarettes, but they do. Now, we can legislate, but can we enforce? That's my concern. I'm being practical with you guys. I don't know what to say. I do know right now, in terms of our police department, that we're losing them left and right. They came before us a couple of weeks ago saying that they need to get some more police because people are leaving, get better paying jobs. But the enforcement of just the buying cigarettes out of a pack of cigarettes, which is against the law, it's difficult for us to enforce that, and it's the law. I just need to say that.
Thank you for that, Councilman Martin.
Okay.
Actually, the last meeting that we had around this, we bought Case Western Reserve, Prevention Research Center. Councilor Mansell Baker was also there. We did talk about the legislation, so we're looking at a number of areas alternative outside of the East Cleveland Police Department being able to go in and administer the enforcement of this. So that is part of our concern too. Okay, so anything else on that?
No.
Yeah, I have something on that. When I wrote had the legislation for the cigarettes, and this is just a comment. They are now not as outgoing as 1 cigarette coming out of a pack. That's what they were selling before. You can go in there, if I can't buy a whole pack, I'll get 1 or 3 and pay $1 for 2, 50 cents a piece. And I think it's great. I think you need to go forward with it regardless of what else happens. And I'm through with that.
Thank you. Anyone else? That's it? Good. The next thing, residential rental unit occupancy permit. Many of you will remember we had the students from Case Western Reserve here giving a presentation on a project that they had done to look into ways to kind of bring in revenue and bolster the safety and the aesthetics of the city, and one of them was that. So as a follow-up to that, we have another round of students from Walsh University. They'll be here tomorrow, and they're charged with actually putting together the rental property procedural manual, the permit that you'll receive, the fees that we'll charge. They'll give us an estimate of what we can expect to make or charge for these, how many rental units we have. So we'll put some numbers to it, to put some color to it. They'll actually work on some mock legislation so that we can look at and see how do we pass this and bring it into the city so that we can start enforcing it. So this is the second part of that project that Case Western Reserve students started. So I have a rough draft here of actually what they're going to be doing, and that still needs to be finalized. But again, they'll make a presentation to council and the public as to what they came up with. One other thing they're also looking at is alternative ways to pay for the implementation of this, i.e. finding a grant to bring in or to pay for the person or the staff to then go out and do these inspections and issue the permits. So I think that's very valuable.
Last thing, comment, you may want to advise them to write somewhere in there that the inspectors or inspectors that partners with that program should have ticket authority or citation authority, in other words. And that's another means of paying for themselves, because I know it's religious around East Cleveland not to follow rules. So you'll find a few people not following that rule if that's implemented.
Okay, good deal.
One more thing.
Yes, please.
None of these students is going to work without the assistance of the law director who are looking at this. So they can keep it, the language incorporated, and that's the way you did before.
Absolutely.
Okay, so they're not gonna be flying on
Right,
their
this is
own.
not a renegade thing. They will have some guidance from myself, other staff here at the city, as well as the law department. Okay, let me keep moving. We talked about the Army, we talked about traffic. The last thing I was asked to mention is that city cell phones,
Are they working now?
they want them back.
Oh, they want them back?
Yeah, so I bought mine, and I was asked to mention, turn them in. They just asked me to mention that, so. You know what, and I'd like to thank everybody for letting me go 15 minutes over here. I'd like to make a motion that we.
Motion that we adjourn the General Services and Administration Committee. Time is
No public, no.
7:45. We did the public comment up front.
he adjusted. the
Oh,
agenda.
okay. I
Yes,
don't
sir.
see it. It's at the bottom here.
I moved the agenda. So, okay, so we're done?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Pass it down to Counselor